Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another video. This time, I am going to be discussing the 7 candidates that I think are most likely going to be picked to be Joe Biden's running mate. Now, before I get started, there are a couple things to keep in mind. First of all, I have a list of about 7, and the first 6 of them are put in no particular order. Joe Biden obviously said that he wanted a woman. He vowed that it would be a female vice president candidate. And he said that he'd like it to be a woman of color as well, if it can be, if all the stars align, I guess. And I guess the final thing to keep in mind is that Joe Biden has a lot of time to make this decision. So there will be a lot of names that are floated around. And over the next couple of months, we might gravitate towards one person or the other, depending on reports. But given the pandemic and things, I don't see Joe Biden making a VP decision too soon. So, with that being said, let's jump right in. The first name that's up there is, of course, Stacey Abrams. Now, Stacey Abrams, of course, the failed new gubernatorial candidate from Georgia, and the positives for Stacey Abrams are obviously that she would spike voter turnout in a state like Georgia, most likely making it a toss-up state. She is African American, so she could obviously bring in more African Americans than even Joe Biden has. And also, of course, the fact that she does have experience at the statewide level, nearly winning in a Republican state. Now, of course, with Stacey Abrams, the problem is going to be her lack of experience. Mostly, the highest office that she's had is state senator, and so I would find it difficult to see Joe Biden picking Abrams to be his running mate. However, do be on the lookout for her in the coming years as a presidential candidate, as a vice presidential appointee, as a senator. She is a rising star in the Democratic Party. Now, the second name is Gretchen Whitmer, who has been getting a lot of press, right or wrong, good or bad, from the fact that she is the governor of Michigan. Michigan has almost, I believe, over 30,000 confirmed coronavirus cases now, in the top 5 actually in the United States. And she has been a name that has been floating around due to her response, due to her swift shutting down and her dealing with the pandemic as she has. Now, with Whitmer, the problem is that she has not gotten a whole lot done in her governorship in Michigan. She has been blocked on most of her top campaign promises that she gave supporters. Republicans are blocking her policies and things of that nature. And the only real credit to her name is the fact that she has had some success at bipartisan legislature, like raising the age for criminal justice from 17 to 18 in Michigan and lowering auto insurance rates for Michiganlanders. I mean, I think that it is a decision that could be made. I don't see Gretchen Whitmer, only because of the fact that she has had that lack of the national spotlight. She, of course, won statewide in Michigan, but I don't necessarily see her being the strongest vice president candidate in 2020, which leads us to our next name, another woman of color, Kamala Harris, who, of course, ran her failed presidential candidacy for 2020. And she is probably one of my dark horse candidates. The reason being just the way she's responded to certain reports about possibly being VP and things like that. She is on the same page as Joe Biden a lot. Joe Biden was quoted to say that she is authentic, and often she's on the same page as Biden, which is, of course, what he's looking for in a vice president to run with. Now, the drawbacks are going to be that she is from California, so it's not really a state that is a toss-up. It wouldn't really give them a benefit in any kind of geographic. It wouldn't give them an electoral college advantage. And also the fact that Kamala Harris would most likely drive away most progressive voters within the party because of her previous stances on things like legalization of marijuana, for example, while she had her time as the Attorney General of California. So important things to keep in mind. But Kamala Harris is a woman of color. She has had that national spotlight with her presidential candidacy, and she showed that she could debate pretty strongly. The only issue is that when she debated strongest, it was in degradation of Joe Biden. So there has to be an understanding of whether they have buried that axe or whatever, and whether she can be the candidate. I don't necessarily see her being the most likely possibility, but given that she is a woman and a woman of color, and the fact that she is a state senator, she is qualified for the job, and she has had that national spotlight. So definitely keep your eye out for Kamala Harris. Now, my fourth name is Elizabeth Warren, someone that would appeal to the progressives, someone that would throw a bone to that 33% of the Democratic population that still would like Bernie Sanders to be the nominee. The issue is that it could drive away swing voters, obviously, could drive away people who are moderates and in the middle because of the fact that she does have more of a progressive agenda. And she's also not really from a very volatile area or state. She's from Massachusetts, which is the Northeast and possibly one of the safest Democratic areas of them all in the country outside of maybe California and Illinois. You're pretty much guaranteed those states up in the Northeast. And so I don't see Elizabeth Warren as the most justifiable decision. However, with Kamala Harris, similar to Kamala Harris, she did run a failed presidential candidacy, and she ran what a lot of people consider to be one of the stronger campaigns, and was just unsuccessful due to what I feel was Bernie Sanders taking the air out of the progressive movement for anyone else. Not right, wrong, or indifferent, just my opinion. But I would think that Elizabeth Warren will not be the choice because she's not a woman of color, because of the fact that she's not a woman from a volatile area. She's not from a volatile state, but she does have the experience. She does have the national spotlight experience, and she did have a substantial amount of followers during her presidential candidacy, which would appeal to a lot of people. So Elizabeth Warren is someone who obviously could perhaps get the nod, but is not someone that I think is most likely. Now, next is another woman of color similar to Kamala Harris and Stacey Abrams, and that's Val Demings, representative from Florida. Now, obviously, if you feel like you recognize that face, it's because maybe you watched the impeachment trial. She was one of the co-authors in the House, and she won re-election in her district by 50% in 2018. She won 75 to 25 in 2018, despite Trump winning the state of Florida in 2016. She has massive popularity in the state of Florida, which would be important for a very big election and a very big state. Of course, 29 electoral votes in the state of Florida. The issue with Val Demings, of course, is that she does not necessarily have the experience that Joe Biden is looking for as far as the national spotlight. She hasn't really been in debates and things of that nature. She was a co-author of the impeachment trial. However, she was not necessarily one of the people that talked to the media the most, one of the people that did this or that the most. So I do not think Val Demings is quite ready for something like this, only from Joe Biden's standpoint. Obviously, I have no experience, so I have no place to talk about any experience about any of these, congresswomen, but I don't think that Val Demings quite has the package that Joe Biden is looking for, due to the fact that Florida, even though it is such a big swing state, you have almost different states of Florida. You have a Republican Florida and a Democratic Florida. And while the Democratic voters in Florida will turn out, which would be major for the Democratic Party, if Donald Trump can rebound the economy, then I imagine that Florida will be a lock for the Republican Party. So I don't know if Val Demings exactly checks off the boxes that he needs. And next to finally is my dark horse candidate, and that would be Tammy Duckworth from the state of Illinois. Tammy Duckworth would be the first Asian American on a major political party's ticket for president in America. It would be the first time ever. She lost both of her legs in the war during service. And I honestly think that she would be the smartest decision for Joe Biden. I think that the best decision would be Tammy Duckworth, given the fact that she is Asian American, and that is a population that Democrats need to vote, as well as the fact that she is from the state of Illinois. So she has kind of reach in states like maybe Wisconsin, maybe a state like Indiana, or maybe a state like Iowa. So I think that she is someone that has a lot of boxes to check off. She's a woman, she's a minority woman, she's a veteran, she's disabled from being a veteran, and she is quite possibly one of the most inspirational figures in the Democratic Party right now. I think that it would be extremely influential if Joe Biden made the pick for Tammy Duckworth, which is why I'm thinking that she is going to be my dark horse, because I think that Tammy Duckworth would be able to spike voter turnout in certain areas, not quite as much as maybe this next name would, but the fact that she is a veteran, the fact that she is disabled, the fact that she is from this area that has swing states in and around the area, it would be very influential and helpful for the Democratic Party to have her on the ticket. So that's my dark horse candidate, Tammy Duckworth. And finally, the person I think who is most likely to get the nod to be Joe Biden's running mate, I believe it's going to be Biden Klobuchar 2020. And I say this for a couple reasons. First of all, she's obviously from an area of major importance, which is the Midwest. She's from Minnesota, and she won statewide 3 times. She won her reelection by 24 points in 2018. That's a statewide election in Minnesota in 2018. She won by nearly 25%. That's absolutely insane. She knows that she shows, that she can carry the state, which kind of shows that maybe she could have reach in these other areas like Wisconsin or Iowa, like I was talking about, perhaps even Ohio and Pennsylvania. She is a bit more progressive on certain things like abortion and prescription drugs. So I would keep an eye out for perhaps that choice due to the fact that she is a little more progressive as well. She could perhaps not scare away progressive voters as much as like a Kamala Harris would maybe. And I also feel like Amy Klobuchar is someone who, when she stepped aside and kind of paved the way for Joe Biden, she was one of those people that helped carry him through Super Tuesday and beyond to defeat Bernie Sanders in the primaries. And so I think Amy Klobuchar will be the pick. I think that she has far range. I think that she is moderate like Joe is, but she's a little progressive. So maybe you can kind of just influence the progressive voters. Amy Klobuchar is someone who's not going to scare away moderate voters. Fans of debates will remember when Amy Klobuchar said the famous line about, when I think about gun laws, I think about, does it affect Uncle Dick in the deer stand? And so I think that that's a mentality that could really strike home with a lot of moderate voters, with a lot of suburban women. And I think that that is the group that Hillary Clinton lost so much, and that's why she lost in 2016, was because she didn't have that suburban white female vote. And so I feel like Amy Klobuchar will be able to spike that, and she won't scare away progressives. She's the most full candidate for vice president, and that's why I think she'll be chosen. Obviously, guys, I'm going to come out with another video for the Electoral College. I've been reading some polls, and so I've got a better idea of what I kind of want to do for the next video. Kind of got some states I need to flip around and such. And of course, if you guys have any ideas or suggestions, let me know. I might do a Senate map as well and go into the Senate races as well. So be on the lookout for that stuff within the next month, and stay safe and stay home. Thanks.